Hello everyone and welcome back to Dalton Together. This week we're going to be cooking something slightly different in our slow cookers. I hope you enjoyed last week, well it was a fortnight ago, the vegetable curry. I froze some of mine and I had it for tea yesterday. It was brilliant, so it's really easy to freeze. Today we are going to be making some turkey meatballs and we're going to have a tomato and vegetable sauce with them. So I've got my ingredients there, but also you might have noticed, for anybody who's sent in any of your photographs, we've got some brilliant photographs of some of the dishes you've already made over the last few weeks. So this week I've put on the ones from week 1. So we've got butternut squash and bean stew. So I've got some brilliant pictures here. Looks really good, so I hope you enjoyed that. You'll have to let us know if you've made anything else in your slow cooker. The other thing I said to talk about today was a little bit about different herbs and spices. Now there's lots of different ways of buying herbs and spices, and it does depend on how much you think you're going to use them. So I have here, I've just got these in this dish just to show you. You can buy pots of herbs from the supermarket. So what you can do with these is, once you've used them, if you take them out of the pot and just split them up a little bit, you can try growing them in the garden or growing them in a big pot. So the one I've got here is some parsley. So you can give that a try. And parsley, of course, fresh parsley is lovely on top of lots of savoury dishes and great for making a parsley sauce with fish. So that's one way you can buy your herbs. Another way is in a packet like this. This one's basil. So basil is good for Italian dishes. I'm just going to open this up. And this is already, of course, been chopped. It's got a rubber band around this. So what you do is make sure you rinse it, and then you can chop that up and put it into your dishes. It smells wonderful. So nice with Italian dishes. One of the things you can do is chop it up, and if you've got a nice cube tray, you can chop some up and put them in each of and fill it up with water and freeze those. Then you can just get one out if you want to put it in a stew or anything like that. So that's another way, so you don't waste any. Because it's quite an expensive way of buying it, and it's a shame if you don't use all of it. So again, when you're planning your recipes, try and find a way of, if you need half of this in one dish, think what you're going to use the other half in. So it might be on top of some pizzas or something like that. The other way you can buy, I suppose this isn't really a herb, but I'm really kind of thinking about things that we use to flavour foods. So I've got some easy chilies here, and that's in a jar, and it's in like an oil. And what you do is, once you've opened it, you keep it in the fridge, and it does give you a little bit of information on the back about how you use it and how much you would use of it. And it says on here on the front, 1 teaspoon equals 1 medium chilli. So you'd have to be careful how much you put in. I've also got, let me have a look, some dried things. So I've got some dried mixed herbs. So the herbs that are in here are thyme, marjoram, oregano, parsley, sage and basil. So I tend to use these quite a lot, so it saves you having to buy all those 6 different, was it 6? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, yeah, 6 different ingredients. But if you find that you want to use a particular herb more, of course you can buy it separate. So I've got like the oregano separate there. These you need to keep in a sort of away from the sun, because this is kind of probably the cheapest way of buying it, dried. But have a look at the date that it needs using up by. It'd be alright after the best before date, but it does tend to lose its flavour quite quickly. So then the other thing that we have is things where you get a mix. So a bit like the mixed herbs, I've got curry powder here. So you could just buy this if you don't make many curries. And this has got garlic powder, cumin seeds, paprika and chilli powder in. So they've done all the work for you. But if you wanted to make more of, if you enjoy making curries, you might want to get the seeds and things and cook them a little bit in a pan all together, and then use a pestle and mortar and make, you know, so it's nice and fresh and you get a better flavour. Again, it depends on how much you want to spend and how much you're going to use them as well. So there's another one here, that's wok spices, so for Chinese food. So some lemongrass. I also usually have some ground pepper in, this is white pepper, or I use the black pepper in a lot of the dishes that I use because I think it gives quite a stronger flavour. The other things I've got here are some garlic granules. So again, if you don't use much garlic and you don't want to buy the garlic bulbs like this, then you could use this powder instead, or if you wanted you could get one of these with the garlic in, the same as it's called Easy Garlic. So there's lots of different ways there of buying herbs and spices, but they do add to the flavour of your food. So what else have I got? Oh, I've got, if you really want to start from scratch, you can grow some of your own. So I've got some chives there, and this one's got some assorted herbs in. So it's got parsley, dill and savoury. So those are there. And also we've got a fajita mix. So this again is going to add some flavour. So it's kind of a Mexican flavour, but they've done the work for you again. So you've got all the different flavours in, the basil and parsley. What else have we got in there? Red pepper powder, chilli powder, cumin, garlic, paprika. It can be a more expensive way of buying it, but again, if you want to buy like 6 or 7 different jars of things and you don't use it much, then sometimes this is, you know, kind of the best way to buy it, most economical. And the other thing, I sometimes buy some of the spices at the international shop, so you can go there and often you get a bigger bag of things. It sort of works out cheaper than buying it in a jar. But again, you need then to make sure that you seal it up well. This has got a bit at the top where you tear it off and then you fasten it again. I'll put it in an airtight container. So those are the more savoury ones. Now I've got, these are the other ones that I use. I have some ground nutmeg, because that's nice if you're making like an egg custard type thing. Or we've got some ground cinnamon, and cinnamon goes really well with apples. So, or on top of, if you've got some toast and some banana on it, sprinkle some cinnamon on, that's really lovely. And I have ginger as well, because I do quite like making ginger biscuits. So I have that in, and vanilla. So this is natural flavouring, and I use this in cakes and biscuits and things. So you don't need a huge amount of things, but what I will do is I'll put a sheet on with the recipe of some of the spices that you might want to buy and herbs if you're starting to cook more with your slow cooker. So I'll move these out of the way now. These are all the other ones I've got separate. Bay leaves. I've got some dried parsley as well. Those out of the way. I'll have to put those there for now. So I've got books on herbs and spices, and it might be something that you want to have a look at. Again, you can get those at the library. Or I've got a book on how to grow vegetables, fruit and flower. So if you fancy having a go at growing your own, if you get yourself a book out of the library. These are some of the pictures of the lovely herbs and spices. So we've got the nutmeg, and we've got ginger as well. And ginger you can get in the pots as well, the easy ginger. Chilli powder or chilli flakes, depends which you like. And we've got some chives there. Fresh mint is lovely. You can grow that really easily in the garden, but it does spread, does mint. But that's really nice when you've boiled some new potatoes. Lovely flavour there. So I'll pop those out of the way. Now I do need this dish, so I'm going to move these. out of the way. And I have got a bowl for washing my hands today, because I am going to be using, I'm going to be preparing some meat. So we're going to use our red chopping board. Move the basil and the parsley, stick that on there. So I've got my green chopping board and my red chopping board. So I'm going to prepare the vegetables first, and I'll show you what you will need. I don't lose the garlic. Right, we have got some lean turkey mince. I've got the one with 7% fat on it, slightly cheaper than the other one. It has got a little bit more fat in it, but it's still quite low in fat. And I've got, let me see how much is in there, 500 grams there. Some Italian passata, which is sieved tomato, so it's kind of a smooth sauce we're making today. And the vegetables I've got are a courgette, some carrots, I've got some sweet potatoes. Now these were in a bag, it was cheaper to buy them in a bag, but they were quite small, so whatever size sweet potato you've got will be fine. Got an onion. Now I've got an apple, because we're going to put apple in with the turkey. It goes well with it, and it helps to keep it quite moist as well when it's cooking, so it stops it drying out and gives it a nice flavour. I've got some mixed herbs. I'm going to put some garlic in, just 1 clove of garlic. Let's see if I can get that off there. And we're going to put some pepper in. I have got some peas and carrots again, because you could actually, if you've got some at home, you could stir them in just before you serve the meatballs. I'll move that, my things down there. And what I will need is a knife. I've got a peeler, chopping knife, and a paring knife. And I'm going to start by I'll just prepare all the vegetables. And these are really long carrots. Again, this recipe is good for, if you've got a couple of carrots left and they've gone a little bit, so there isn't enough maybe to do as a side veg with your meal, you can use them up in this dish. And sweet potatoes. Now I do find, I don't know if you do, you find it easier to prepare everything and get it all ready, so that once you start cooking, it's already done. Now if you're good at multitasking, you can actually be kind of frying the meatballs while you're chopping up the other vegetables, but I find it easier just to prepare it all at the start. Now I don't think have we done any recipes with sweet potatoes? I know we used butternut squash. Now these are a bit the same in a way. You can add them to lots of different savoury dishes, or you can just, if you wanted, you could eat it like a jacket potato, so you could give it a good scrub and leave the skin on, but bake it in the microwave. So, and just serve it like a jacket potato, or you can boil it maybe with half and half with ordinary potatoes, and then just mash it, and it's nice just mashed up on top of a cottage pie or a shepherd's pie. I've washed the courgette, chop the ends off, and I usually cut them into this size into 3 and cut down. And then just into small chunks. So you've all got your own way of chopping. Try and keep your fingers out of the way. I was thinking last week I haven't got any plasters if I do cut myself, because they're in my work bag. So I'm used to running cooking sessions in the community, so it's a bit strange still doing cooking sessions at home, particularly when I'm just talking to myself. It's courgette. Pop this in the bowl ready. And what you would do is, when you've prepared all these vegetables, you just give them a quick wash. There's that one there. End off the carrot. Again, I tend to cut them into smaller pieces. And particularly, this is a recipe if you've got children who aren't keen on lumpy bits of vegetables. I know some people buy the ready-made sauces where it's smooth. What you can do is, before you serve this, when it's ready, you can take out the meatballs, put them on a plate, and if you've got one of those stick blenders, you can just blend the sauce. I would actually take it out of this, because when I think about it, this has got like a non-stick lining, so you'd probably be better putting that into a bowl. And then you can make it smooth if you want. The only thing is, if you've added peas to it, it's best not to blend it, because it does go a funny murky colour. Of course, the green and the orange. And we want it to look nice and bright, so that everybody fancies eating it. Carrot. So I'm hoping you can see what I'm doing. And if you're cooking along at the same time, I hope I'm doing it at the right speed. You'll have to let me know. These smell lovely, do these carrots? Now this recipe, we're going to cook it for 4 hours. Now I've tested all these recipes out. These are some of my favourite recipes, and some of them that I've adapted for using in the slow cooker. So I have tried this out. In fact, I did get some, I did freeze some of this when I made it last week, and I forgot to get it out, so I've just popped it in the microwave on defrost, so you can see what it looks like. I throw that in my rubbish. I'm cutting all these into quarters. I think everybody has their own way of chopping. So yes, so I will show you what the finished looks like. And I do find that with having the apple in, it does give it a slightly sweet flavour, which is very similar to if you normally buy the ready-made sauces. I think what, like the Dolmio style ones, which are great to have in, but for this, you will find that if you look on the back of them on the label, they do have quite a lot of sugar in them. I mean, tomatoes have sugar in naturally, but there is quite a lot of added sugar in them. So if you're trying to cut down on sugar, it's a lot better to have a go at making your own sauces, and also a lot cheaper as well. But sometimes having a jar of something in that is a basis for a meal, if you're not if you haven't got a lot of time, you can do. So you could prepare all these and add your other favourite sauce. But it does, cooking from scratch, I do find, seems to be expensive at the time when you're buying things, but it tastes so much better. I'm only doing that much because I'm going to pop that. That's my clove of garlic. I'm chop that up very finely. You might chop it up a bit finer. Or if you've got a garlic press, you can use that. So yeah, I was saying about sort of preparing food. Do find as well that when I cook from scratch, I do tend to use more vegetables. Sometimes you find if you've bought a ready meal, there's not a lot of vegetables in it and it's not very filling. So then you end up eating more of it. And if you've made it yourself, one of the things about it is you can put in the things that you like. So if you don't like courgette in, you could choose something else to put in, some other vegetable. Of that. I'm going to chop the onion fairly finely. I think some of my knives need sharpening. It's fairly fine. Fairly fine. Oh. Again, some people I know have bought the onions. You can buy bags of onions chopped and they're frozen. So if you don't use a lot of onions, sometimes that's a good way of buying them. If you find that you're wasting the onions, you know, if you bought a bag of them, so you can buy the frozen ones and just put a handful in. The same applies to, you can get peppers as well, and they're good for using in something like this. So red or green, yellow peppers, it's usually a bag of mixed peppers, frozen, and you can just put a handful in there. All right, now I'm just going to peel the apple. Now this is quite a big apple, is this? Depends what size. It doesn't matter what sort of apple it is. I have suggested that you use an eating apple rather than a cooking apple, because it stays a little bit. It doesn't kind of go too mushy. So what we're going to do is we're going to grate this. And we're going to add this to the turkey. So the other way, I was saying about onions, you can buy bags of ready prepared vegetables. Now usually they work out quite expensive because you're paying for somebody's time to do it. Now if time's very precious for you, or I know some people find it difficult chopping, and particularly if your hands are arthritic, you can find it quite difficult peeling and preparing vegetables, so you can buy it that way. And sometimes you can see it on, you know, on the whoops bit, you know, where it's a bit reduced in price. And sometimes I've bought, they do a soup mix at one of the supermarkets I go to, and it makes a really good base for the any sort of homemade vegetable soups you're making. But as I say, it works out expensive normally compared to the price of all the vegetables. But if you're not wanting to buy all the vegetables because you know you're not going to use them that week, then buying one of that can work out cheaper. And it's really quick. I'll get rid of those. I'm going to put those apples in there out of the way for now. And I will need 1 vegetable stock cube. And I think I put in, again, I didn't put too much water in because you don't want it to go too wet. So I'll just have a look at my list to see how much water I put in. 100 mils of water. So I have got some water somewhere, I've got a jug. Ideally, some boiling water, because if you put boiling water in, it's easier to for the stock cube to dissolve. So I want 100 mils, which isn't a lot. It's that much. So it's probably about half a beaker. Stock cube in. Just get in like that. And I'll pop that to one side so don't forget to put it in. I don't know if anybody else has ever made anything and you've ended up and you think, oh, I did put that in. That often happens to me. Right, so I've got my apple ready to go with the mince. I've got the tomato ready to make the sauce. Put that there. Mixed herbs, won't forget those. So I'm going to now try and find my red board. So I'm going to use the red board for the mince. So I've prepared everything else. Just in this. And I will need a bowl. So I've got my slow cooker ready. I'm going to put those vegetables in there because I'm not going to fry them or anything. So those are going in there. I'm going to pop the mince in this one. And to the mince, I'm going to add the apple. I'll grate this in. Now, if you haven't got a grater, this is a very old grater. You can tell because it's orange. You don't get many orange things anymore in kitchens. This, if you haven't got a grater, if you just chop it up very finely. So I always get near the end and go like that. Oh, lost that. So this is the first, I think this is the first one. Oh no, we did the chicken, didn't we, where I just browned the chicken a little bit. Because what we're going to do is we're going to cook the onions with the garlic and then add the meatballs. Just so they go a little bit brown so we can brown them on both sides. Well, you know what I mean. Top and bottom anyway. I'm going to make, when I made this before, as I said, it was about 4 hours it took to cook on high. Again, you could do it on low if you wanted. But I made 12 of the meatballs. So they're not too big, so you can make sure that they're cooked in the middle. What I did was, when I thought it was ready, I took one of the meatballs out and cut it in half, just to check that it was cooked through and it was hot in the middle, because it's got to be really hot in the middle. The other thing to remember with food safety, particularly using meat, is that you've stored the meat, well, you've checked the date first of all, you bought it from a supermarket or a butcher's that, looks after the food properly. Bring it home and you'd pop it in your fridge. Now, your fridge should really, the temperature should be under 5 degrees to keep it cold, because once it starts getting warm, of course, meat, it starts, we'd call it going off, and it's kind of where all the germs and bacteria and all the things and what have you are growing on it, and you wouldn't want to use it. And meat that's off, particularly mince, you'll know usually when it's off, but sometimes you don't. So you do need to make sure that it's still in date when you're using it, and that in any way, if you think, I don't know if that's right, with meat, I say don't use it, don't risk it. So I've got the apple in there with the turkey. I'm not going to use, I didn't think we needed to use an egg. It all stayed together really well. I didn't use any breadcrumbs in it either. So I'm trying to make these recipes, and I don't know if you're like me, you don't want hundreds of ingredients to prepare, and it tasted just fine. So I'm going to put in some pepper, and I'll use some of this black pepper. As I say, I like the ground black pepper. You can use fine pepper, or let me see if I can find it. Oh, I've got some ground white pepper either. Plenty of pepper in. Again, I don't usually use salt because I'm trying to cut down on salt. So if you're used to using salt, there is some salt already in the stock cube. So again, we're trying to cut down on salt for our health. Now on here I put half a teaspoon in, so I'm going to take the lid off and hope that this spoon fits in. No. There we are. I've got some of these. These are quite useful. These are good as well for measuring oil into a pan. So this is half a teaspoon. Oh. There we are. Some mixed herbs in. Let's get rid of the lid. Now you can get your hands in and do this if you want. Make sure it's really well mixed in. Make sure you've got all the herbs mixed in, because you don't want one that's just got all herbs in it. If you wanted, if you like, you could add some chilli to this. It's really nice with some chilli powder in it, or some fresh chilies. If you didn't want to add them to the meatballs, you could add them to the sauce either. So I think once you've made a recipe once or twice, you start adapting it to suit you and your family. Again, you could use, instead of turkey mince, you could use beef mince, or if you wanted a vegetarian option, you could use some of the vegetarian sausages, but make them into balls. You can buy ready-made meatballs, but again, you're paying a lot more for a lot less, because again, you're paying for somebody to do the work for you, and this isn't that difficult to make once you've done it a few times. So I'm going to pop this on the mat, and I'm going to cut it into 12. See, turn it round. So that's 6. That's 4. So I need to make each of these into 3. I think that's right. If my maths is right, I think this is kind of like the large enough, but make sure that they're all the same sort of size, so they all cook at the same time. So if you've got, it will serve between 4 and 6 people, will this? Again, it depends on if you've got adults or if you're children. That's right. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I've got to make this into 6. Do this again. Down there. Into 3. If you want it, you see, look, I haven't measured that very well because that one looks a bit bigger. Stick it on that one. I'm not using any flour. I didn't find you needed any flour with it either, really. If you wanted to add a little bit of flour on the outside, you could do. It would thicken your sauce a little bit as well. So next week, the next session that I do, I'm going to talk about ways of sort of thickening different stews and things that you make. So either using corn flour or lentils or flour. So let me see, I've got to do this like this. I don't know about how even they look. That still looks a little one. Right, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Spot on. So I'll just wash my hands. I have got some hand wash. I don't usually wash my hands in a little bowl behind here, but because my sink is over there, rather than me disappearing off the screen completely, I thought it was better if I just did it that way. Right, So the other thing that I did forget to mention that we needed was, or is, a drop of oil, and the oil is right over the other side. So I'm going to use a little bit of margarine. Just put a little bit of margarine in there. Now I have got, it is a non-stick pan, but you do find that you just need a little bit. If you don't want to add the margarine, what you could do is just start it with a little bit of water. I'm going to use this. This is a spoon that I mixed the turkey mince with. It'll be fine, because what we're going to do is just get this started. A spoon. So while that's just warming up, I'm just going to try and dissolve some of this stock. So if you remember, I've got 100 mils of stock in here. So just while the onion and garlic, so I've got the onion and garlic in there, and that's just beginning to, you probably can hear it sizzling. And you've got to be careful you don't burn the onions. This is sometimes, you need a little bit of patience. I know I do. Turn the heat down a little bit. Now, if you haven't got a large frying pan, it doesn't matter, you can do it in a small frying pan. What you do is fry the onions and maybe 2 or 3 of the meatballs on both sides, and then you'd add them to the pan. It's just that I've got quite a large pan here, so I should be able to cook them all at the same time. Pop these in. Move that out of the way. Again, I'm trying not to use too much equipment. You know, too many utensils, because I say I don't particularly like washing up. I think it's one of the downsides of cooking. Right? Sometimes if you've got somebody at home, if you've cooked it and they'll wash up, that does help. Or if you're like me, you've got to do it all yourself. I have found though, with using the slow cooker, one of the things is, once I've done all this preparation, I can wash up. And then when you're actually serving your meal, you don't have many pans and things afterwards. You've just got the dish from the slow cooker to clean. Now, what I must remember to tell you is as well, if you keep, if you've eaten half the meatballs mix for your tea, the other half you'll need to put in the fridge, or put them into plastic tubs to put in the freezer. Now when you've got them out of the freezer or out of the fridge, you need to heat them up either in a pan or in the microwave, because the slow cooker doesn't get hot enough really for them to cook through properly. So you will need to do them in a pan or in the oven, whichever one you want to do. And the other thing that I've forgotten to do is, it's what are you going to serve this with? So I've suggested that you use maybe some pasta, so you could have spaghetti. I don't know if you can see, those are just beginning to brown. So I'm going to turn them over before they go black. And I'm going to just turn it down. We're not trying to cook them all the way through. And just be really gentle with them. I'm going to give it a little shake. I'll turn that down a little bit. Move this out of the way. We're finished with the food preparation now. turn this off. In fact, what I'll do is I'll lift it out so you can see. So you'll have washed your vegetables and put those in the bottom of the slow cooker. And we're going to add the tomato pasta, because this is just going passata. This is just going to be our sauce for this. I'll try and get it open. So it's kind of, I don't know if you can see, it's a lot kind of like a smoother sauce. And what I would do is just rinse that out with a little bit of cold water to make sure you've got all the tomato out. And then I'm just going to add the 100 ml of water, give that a little stir round. I know I needed this dish. So what I'm going to do is, you can see those are nice kind of brown on both sides. It just smells amazing. I'm just going to take them out because I want to mix the onion in with the sauce and the vegetables. And once you've put, you've got to be really quite gentle with these meatballs because they're not cooked fully. They tend to fall apart, so you just be a little bit gentle. Those in there. I can smell the apple. So the apple juice as well comes out into the sauce, so it makes it a really nice flavour. So they're just a little bit rounder, the onions, but I've managed not to burn them. It's probably a first for me. So I've just popped those in the sauce there. And then what we're going to do, I think I'll season that as well now. I'm going to put some more pepper in that. So I did put some pepper in the meatballs. And the next bit is to put all the meatballs back in. Just be careful because they might be they're still quite warm. And when I made this before, I just kind of sat them on top of the vegetables. I didn't you don't need to sort of put them under the liquid because they do kind of steam a little bit. Sure you get all the onion out in there. So we've got those there. Hopefully you can see that. I'm going to pop those in the slow cooker and they're going to put the lid on. Don't forget to turn it on at the wall, and also I'm going to pop it on high, and that will take, well, I'm going to check after 4 hours to make sure that they're cooked, to make sure the vegetables are cooked. So always allow yourself a little bit more time when you're cooking with a slow cooker. You know, if you want to eat your tea at 5 o'clock, if you count backwards and give yourself an extra half hour just in case it isn't cooked properly. I'm just checking out, forgotten to put anything in. No, I think I've got everything in today. Now, here we've got, and it doesn't look that good at the moment, but this is the meatballs that I put in the freezer the other day. So let me see if I've got like a pasta dish. I'll put that on. I'll just wash my hands. if you've been touching the raw meat before you touch anything else. Make sure that you've washed your hands. So these are the meatballs. They're still a bit frozen. You can hear it. So this would be lovely served on some spaghetti, and you can, because the sweet potato's gone quite soft, you can just mash it down if you want, and it makes it a thicker sauce. So there we have our turkey meatballs, and those are the dishes I got, just to the plastic pots with the lids on, because it's kind of enough for one big portion. It is a big portion as well, because you would really have 3 of the meatballs. So I'll take one off, because what happened was I didn't count properly. So one of the other ones that are frozen must only have 2 in. But just to show you, that's the 3 meatballs. So that's, let's say, if you make 12 and you're sharing it between 4 of you, that's the amount. So it's quite a big helping, is that? Not everybody will want that much. If you serve it on top of some hot pasta, if you want, you could have one of those, you know, like sub sandwich type things. You can serve it in, you know, if you've got some crusty bread or something, you could have it with that. So hopefully yours will turn out brilliant and you'll love it, and I will see you in a couple of weeks' time. But don't forget, if you've got any pictures, if you send them onto Dalton Together's website, or on I think it's the Facebook either. John sent me these through, so as I say, I've printed them off, so they're brilliant. So enjoy your cooking, and hopefully I'll see y'all soon. Bye for now.